Welcome back. I am the Watch King. On this video, we're going to be talking about the reverse quartz crisis. What does this mean? What is quartz? And we're going to go over it very quickly here and explain what I think is happening here. So we're going to go, what is quartz? Now, quartz is a different movement, right? It's a different mechanism to tell the time in wristwatches. Originally coming out in 1969 for Seiko. Early 70s, the Swiss adopted it. It was a big race. Seiko won. And then, of course, when everybody started adopting it, it crashed in price, right? The very first quartz ones were like $900,000 with Seiko, going all the way down to what we now know is $30 Timex, $60. That's typically the range, under $100 for not a Swiss quartz, right? There's different levels to it. It goes all the way up to Rolex, Patek Philippe. Even Patek Philippe to this day also uses quartz movements in their watches. So why do I say that there's a reverse quartz crisis? Well, just like the 70s, right? The 70s, it came in, it wiped out all these watchmakers. Now it's the opposite, right? All these mid-level brands, I don't want to say names because I don't want to call out any brand, but you know those brands between, I would say, under $1,000. These type of brands that were very big, right? And now since 2015, and it's not just one brand, this chart did everything. The quartz watches being produced and being shipped out, the actual statistic is being shipped out, crashed. So we go all the way, it kept going up and up and up, and 2015 was the peak, and now it's going down, down, down. And especially, not just quartz crisis in particular, quartz in particular, it's the cheap watches. That's what's really disappearing here, right? And brands are being hurt. Now, the big conglomerates like Swatch Group, that's not going anywhere, right? Especially with their, gimmicky more watches like the Moon Swatch and stuff like that. I'm just talking about smaller brands, stuff that was sub 1,000, that was quartz, right? And it's throughout the industry that was made in Switzerland. So all these watches are going down. So what happened in 2015? Now 2015, I don't know, day or year that's pretty infamous with the Apple Watch, right? It is exploding on the scene. Now I don't know if it was the very first year, but it was the year that everybody started buying them, right? I believe it might have been 2015. So I'm not entirely sure. I just know that the Apple Watch, basically, what we see with the Apple Watch just took, huge market share, like way more than 50% away from these watches. And they keep taking more and more every year, right? Because that watch it's like a quartz watch, but even better, right? For the people that do that. So where does that leave the watch industry? It doesn't mean it's going anywhere, right? The only thing that a lot of people, including myself, right? I started with a very inexpensive tag, well under $1,000, under $500, and it was quartz. I loved it. I just didn't want to spend $10,000. I just didn't have the money, right? Not even that I didn't want to spend it. I just didn't have it. So a lot of people are concerned about the quartz, the affordability to get into these watches, but I don't think that way, right? The whole industry is scared of that. I think that if you say get rid of that quartz statistic, right, of the cheaper brand, you go into micro brands. Like I'm going to name Underdog Studio. They're Chinese, but other Swiss ones, right? And there's a ton of Swiss. There's a ton of Swiss off the shelf, right? Off the shelf meaning they're ETAs, movements like that, like Salida. So they're off the shelf and they get added to these micro brand watches. Now, I think that is the new, right? You can get micro brand watches, right? Even in the States, they make them. Now they might be assembled overseas or whatever the case, but state brands like Baltic and I can't name them all because there's a ton. This is where I think the people getting into watches will go straight to mechanical, right? Now, if I knew a bit more about watches, I maybe wouldn't have bought that tag. I think it's still a cool tag. It's my first video on this channel. It's still uploaded. So I think that's where money should be put into. It's hard with micro brands, but they're doing very well. I do a lot of watch related content, so the ads that I see on YouTube are about microbrands and stuff like that. But I want to know what you think. What do you think about this reverse quartz crisis? Do you think that they're doing well, right? Microbrands, do you think that it will still get people in? I personally want to think of the positive side. I think that will do it a lot. Now, there's other brands like Casio, right? That they're not going anywhere, these watches, right? So that's it. That's basically what I wanted to share with you. I can't wait for your comments on this one. Please let me know, and I'll be sure to look down there. If you're curious or looking for any vintage watches, please go check out thewatchkingofficial.com, link in the description. Thank you, and I will catch you in the next one.